Hi African Queen Mo family. How are you guys doing? I hope you're okay. I'm always saying how you're doing because it's good to check in on us. Well, my mental health is not doing very good, unfortunately. And I think I'm being affected by the sudden change of environment and the fact that I'm now parenting. Oh my God, for you guys who are parents out there, how do you do it? How do you manage? Especially with teenagers. It is such a trip. I remember I was in this situation once before. Like now there are kids like cycling around. I have to be very careful because they can actually come into the video. But I remember I was a parent once before, about maybe how many years ago? Can we say maybe almost 20 years ago? The situation was so different with our kids, especially like when you're raising them in Africa, it's so much easier than when you're raising them in the Europe or in the Western countries, because here they have rights that are given to them by the government and very young in age. So they feel like they need to be in control or they need to manipulate their way around everything. Everything becomes a power struggle with your children. I don't know, maybe our kids in Africa are the same way nowadays. Maybe it's just the environment or the growth of the social media where they see a lot of things happening. Now we're living more in a village rather than, in isolated countries and societies. Yeah, unfortunately, there's an elderly lady who's my friend, and she's walking up and down right now, and there are some teenage children behind her riding their bicycles very roughly around her. And I worry for her. I worry for her safety because she's actually using like a walker, and she's not that stable. So she's kind of like my mom walking around, and I feel for her. But I'm hoping that the kids are not going to be bullying her or doing something crazy. Because the other day I came over here, then there was another group of kids who came and they started doing nasty things, spitting around. You cannot believe, how indisciplined children can be in this society and how difficult it can be for you as a parent, parenting these kids. Really, it can be something difficult. Actually, I had planned to come and talk about politics today. But at the moment, I decided, no, let me really try to come down to, what's happening with you and I. You see that child who's just riding across here? So basically, when you look at people's mental health, you see that people are struggling. People are really struggling, with their mental health. And a lot of it has got to do with the fact that there's very little support. The government itself seems to limit itself to schools, but when it comes to home, they'll have something like social workers. When things get out of hand, that is when they come in. But when, for example, you are just like raising kids normally every single day, like you see me always turning my back to see what's happening because I have to be very careful that the children are not misbehaving themselves. I've got two kids that I'm looking after. They're my husband's kids, basically. They're nice kids. I've had them since they were probably about 9 years old when I met them in person. Between 9 and 8, they're only like 1 year apart. And it was difficult then. But I think, we had actually created a rapport. And then I went away because, I had that situation with my family, lost my dad, looked after my mom who was dementia, and then came back after a year and a half almost. And I can tell you guys that it has not been easy to reintegrate at all. It has been quite a challenge. First of all, to reintegrate back into my family, because now I've found children who are even cooking. You'll find that my daughter is cooking, she's making food, she's making snacks by herself, which is a lovely thing to see. Yeah, I watch her and I cannot believe that this is the girl. She's almost my height. I look at the boy and he's like, his voice is breaking, he's like 12 years old. Now his voice is breaking, he's starting to become a man. And it reminds me of when my son was also breaking his voice and he's now growing up to be a man and he's, now no longer a child, he's no longer a little child. And 1 year can make such a big difference, you guys. For those of you parents who work very far away, maybe you spend a whole year away from your family, maybe you work in Sudan or like if you're in Africa and you're working in the NGO sector, non-governmental sector, it means many of the times you're going to be sent away, very far away from your families. And then when you come back, every time you have to almost reintroduce yourself to your children because you see new people. You leave children, little young kids, the next thing you see them, they're almost grown up. So for those people who are working in situations which are not conducive for families, then I think it's really, really important that you do a lot of FaceTime, use IT to do FaceTime and keep up not only with your spouse or your partner, but also with the kids. You need to talk to them all the time so that when you come back, you reintegrate easier. Like, for example, I'm finding it really, really tough, guys. Really, really, really tough. Let me try this puff puff of maha. It's not drained, but I know it's tasty. They're so nice, they're crispy. So delicious. Maha, you're a chef. I actually called it to make me some puff puff because I need to have some ginger tea with something. The other day, when I was gonna go shopping, there was like nothing in the house. We decided I just heard her blending some stuff and I was shocked when I came back and found puff puff. There's some sort of donuts and it's so tasty. Maha, well done, thank you. And you can ask me, okay, then why don't you just leave them? Why don't you go home? Why are you complaining? I'm not really complaining. I'm just expressing myself as a parent because I know very many parents experience the same thing I do. Many parents are experiencing the challenges of parenting. It is tough. Parenting these days is tough. And it's even tougher when you're abroad.
Raising kids in Europe as a foreigner especially is super, super, super hard. It's not a walk in the park. So yesterday I was on TikTok and I saw how TikTok President Nyako was talking about how the school where her son goes to called her and they wanted to discuss about the son's behavior, that he was not behaving well in school. And she was talking about how in Germany you cannot punish children, so even in school they do as they want, and all that you can do is just to talk to them. Then today I went to a training. This training was about being a parent in Sweden as a foreigner, and this training was by the social services, mostly training refugees who are being supported by the social services. And in this training, they were talking about teaching them about being a parent in Sweden, the laws, the rights of the children, and what the parents need to know. And in this meeting, something caught my eyes because these parents were complaining about their children. They were complaining about their teenage children. Most of these women were talking about how the teenagers are not listening to them. They just come from school and they lock themselves in their rooms and they're on their phones 24/7. They only come out to eat. They don't do anything else. And I understand this because I have teenagers in my home too. And they do the same. Basically, they don't want to do anything. They just want to be on their phones and wake up, eat, lock themselves in the room. And this kept me thinking, why is it so? Of course, the main reason is the rules here. The rules here are so much different. They protect the children, but there are also part of these rules that are not so good for the children because they make the children to be really tough-headed. They don't listen to their parents. And even in school, they teach these children to report their parents. If the parents shout at them or if the parents do something that they don't like, to report. And this is a problem, especially to foreigners, because this is a different way of raising kids. In coming from Africa, Asia, all this part of the world, we were not taught we were not raised like this. And it's a problem to change, to start to raise your kids different. So yeah, this is a real problem, and it is a problem especially to foreigners. It's very hard to change the way, but again, if you live here, you have to adjust to how they want you to raise your kids. So this is a big problem.
And this is why I see a lot of people, I've been watching a lot of videos also of many Africans, and not just Africans, but many people, rich, the wealthy, they're leaving the UK, they're leaving Western countries. And you know where they're going? They're going to what they call the less developed countries. They're going to the Thailands of this world. They're going to Brazil. They're going to Africa. They're going to UAE. These are not the first world countries. They're going into what they call second and third world countries. Why? Because over there they can find people to talk to. They can have community. They can have support. They can hire people to work with them. Because you see, here you can have money. But even with money, you can get quality healthcare, yes, but the wait times can be also long. Quality food is available, but very, very expensive. Finding help, even somebody to help you wash your dishes, cook for you, or even help you with the children or keep you company, you have to spend so much money on that. So it becomes like a transactional environment that you're living in, not where you can easily relate with people. Just today, I went over to Tesco to do some shopping. And I found that food is damn expensive. I actually went there with exactly a certain amount of money. And I said, I don't want to go over budget, so let me just go with this amount of money, because it's a more expensive place to shop at Tesco. Because I don't have a car, it means that I can't actually, just get up and go to Asda or the cheaper stores. And by the way, you know what I noticed? Although I took the cart, and many people are taking carts into the store, the carts are only like about half full or quarter full by the time they actually get to the checkout. People are only coming out with maybe one bag. Other people are going just with little baskets mostly. There are very few people nowadays who shop a full shopping cart. Very, very few people who do that. I noticed that people are actually spending a lot of time up and down on the aisles, gazing at prices, gazing at food, deciding. I can see there's a lot of thinking, that is processing of information that is going on with a lot of people of all calibers, all ages, and especially the elderly. They actually linger at the aisles and they go back and forth on the aisles. Whereas before, you see people just pick stuff and go. Now, no, people are thinking very, very hard before they actually buy. When I went to the checkout, I was surprised that actually I needed to add more money to the amount of money that I had actually carried with me in cash. I had to still pay by card because the cost of the items I had misunderstood or miscalculated. Why? Because I think I'm using old prices in my head. I'm like, yeah, I can afford. I used to buy this and this and this and this together. Now I can't do that. I have to be very careful about what things I actually pick at the shop, and especially if you want to eat healthy, you want to eat fresh vegetables, fresh fruits, you want to eat meat. My God, you're going to pay a lot of money, for this meat especially. And also for fresh vegetables and fruits. They're not cheap. And for a family of 4, especially when you have older children who have big appetites, then you're in trouble. Unless you're living on a farm or you're, able to move and go and buy your food very far away and come back. Maybe buy it cheaper. If you're lucky to be in London, maybe you might have more options. Maybe there's some African food shops which are close by. Some Indians have got like little markets and things like that. But even in a place like Cardiff, it can be quite expensive, to buy food. Although, yes, we do have farmers now. But you see, another problem we have now with the farming community, we have seen recently that we have actually fewer farmers. We actually have fewer farmers in the society now. Fewer people are into farming. Why? Because of this inheritance tax that they introduced, because of the cost of doing farming has really increased in this country. It has really increased. There goes the children. They are coming and they're going to make a lot of noise and they're going to try and make it difficult for me. So farmers are having a difficult time growing food and fruits and vegetables because of the cost of inputs and also the taxes. The taxes are very high on farming, and this is actually affecting and impacting farmers very, very much. So I'm gonna have to pause this video because we have some kids who have decided to interrupt and actually make it very difficult for me to actually record the video. And this is the thing, the indiscipline in the country is huge. You find a lot of children in gangs. You see a lot of people walking out in gangs and distracting and making it difficult. Yeah. I told the kids that I'm doing the vlog for my work, and so they let me off. They went away. Thank God, you guys, man. It was going to be really tough. It can be really, really difficult, for new people who are moving into the country, into the UK, to adapt and adjust to this environment. It is something else. The attitude of children is that they have very little respect for adults. the way that we raise our kids out in Africa and in developing countries is that there is a difference between an adult and a child. Over here, you'll find that a lot of children don't know the difference. They don't know how to address adults and children. They don't know that they have to address adults in a certain way and their age mates in a certain way. They think it's okay to challenge adults, to challenge, authority, and get away with it, literally, you know. So it can be really, really something. I myself am really having a hard time, you guys, trying to adapt and adjust. So pray for me, help me to adapt and adjust. And if you guys are raising children and having a really hard time, I used to listen to videos of parents, young vloggers in Kenya who also are parents. And I saw, like, especially if you listen to, if you see YouTube posts of parents these days, they'll tell you that the Toto wa siku hizi, the children of today are so difficult, so different. They want to dress the way they want. They want to, challenge you. They want to take your space. They don't want to give you your privacy. They don't want to give you your space. I really just don't understand what it is with a lot of children. But what is interesting is that the children who my friend has at her children's home are so disciplined, well-mannered. But I also know that it takes a lot of effort of parenting, and apart from parenting, other people in the community helping you to raise these kids. It's not easy to parent by yourself. One actually needs a village to parent properly. Parenting in the West, difficult, one of the most challenging things for adults to go through, one of the most challenging things for parents to go through. I know of many parents who have actually sent their children back to Africa or back home. And I understand why, because it is so, so difficult to control them, to, get them to listen, to get them to sit down and get away from the screens, get away from TV, get away from Netflix, get away from, YouTube and TikTok and all these. There's so many distractions. And yet in those countries, there's so many things that kids do. They help each other, they can braid hair. Like you see, I was doing clothes. I was having my daughter in learning how to sew, how to design, how to do hair. If I don't know how to do it, I will find somebody else to do it to help her. But in this country, being the all in all with these kids, especially once they're under the age of 14, when you cannot leave them alone, it can be something else, guys. This has been a trip, let's put it that way. And again, another thing is that the difficulties of raising children abroad can also impact on your family. Apart from financials, it can actually affect your relationship with your spouse or with your partner. Why? Because you may have different disciplining attitudes and styles. And all of this can go and impact on your relationship, because maybe one person is more lenient compared to another. Another person is more stickler to timetables, and another one just wants job done, And I think you know who I am. I'm just the one who wants job done, and my husband would be, no, let's go by the timetable. And why is he like that? It's because he's a teacher. My husband is actually a teacher in the school system, and he understands the difficulties. I think maybe he's much more adapted to the children here, and much more adapted to the children here. So over there, guys, I don't think you saw that, but there's we live with gypsy communities here, and the gypsy communities, they have horses and carriages in Wales. It's quite an interesting environment to live in. So sorry that this has been more of like a rant video, but that was not my plan. My plan was not to rant. My plan is just to talk about it. For those of you who are parenting out in the West, or those of you who have teenage kids, what are the tips that you can give a new parent or a parent, especially now? This is the other one, a step parent. What tips can you give a step parent? Because I don't want to be that evil stepmother, but on the other hand, I don't want to be that stepmother that just didn't pay attention to detail and ended up with children who are completely indisciplined or completely out of line. Or even, I don't want to be that parent who has children who feel oppressed, depressed. I don't want that. I don't want children who are going to grow up with anxiety issues. So how do I create this balance without going crazy, without going mad? What do I do, guys? Yeah. And what tips can you give on parenting? Because again, we have to be very careful with our children. We have to be careful not to stress them. Even the Bible tells the parent not to be too harsh on kids, because one needs to discipline but also be balanced. But how do you do that in this day and age without resorting to literally sending them away and sending them back to Africa? Go back to the motherland and learn your manners, you know? How do we do that? Okay, so on that note, guys, it's lovely to talk to you. You can hear them shouting in the background. Lovely chatting with you. Thank you so much for your time. Take care and thank you so much. From tomorrow, we're going to start our live shows. And guys, oh, here's a good one I want to talk to you about, guys. From tomorrow, we're going to start our live shows because I finally joined the YouTube community. And because of that, now we can actually monetize our channel. So thank you so much for your time. God bless you. Take care. Bye bye.